Hey guys, this is Coach Michael Burt. I am so glad you joined me for Super Coach. I believe a good coach can change your life. I believe a good coach will have conversations with you don't want to have, make you do some things you don't want to do, help you become something you didn't think you could become. You see, you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. You can't reach your own potential without the help of another person helping you break through those ceilings of success. I'm Coach Michael Burt, and I'm going to find the kryptonite in your life, and I'm going to do it on this show, Super Coach. Hey guys, this is Coach Michael Burt, the Super Coach. Every week coming into your life really to do three things. We multiply your life, we multiply your money, we multiply your business. And one of my standing principles at Super Coach is I love spending time with talent and reaching up. And probably 6 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, I got a hold of this book, I think via YouTube channel, Disrupt You, and really dug into our guest today, Jay Samit. And man, what a mind. What a visionary, what a disruptor. And this is one of the best books I've read in a long time. And we're going to get into disruption of your own personal value chains, of other people's value chains. We're going to get into augmented reality. So Jay, welcome to Super Coach. And thank you, my friend, for taking your body of work and putting it into something that is helping a lot of people. I know that's part of your big mission in the world. So thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. And thanks everybody for giving some of their time to listen in.
So let's start off with disruption, because in the book, you really break it down to what personal disruption, but a lot of people basically replicate, right? They basically take what someone else has done and they make it a little bit better and they improve upon it somewhat. And for some people that really works, and they take something that was okay and makes it much better. Give the audience your definition of disruption.
So here's my definition of disruption is this. If you think back from when cavemen first started making the Iron Age, they made little knives, swords, and then you get to that scene in Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark with the Arab with the big scimitar. And then Indy looks at him, pops out the Smith & Wesson and goes, boom, that's disruption.
Nice.
The second the gun came out, nobody cared if you could make a better sword, okay? When you look at Airbnb puts more people in bed each night than any hotel chain, and they don't own a building. Uber moves more people around than any taxi cab company ever imagined that they could. The number one media company in the world creates zero content. It's Facebook, okay? The biggest retailer in the world has zero inventory. What are they doing? They're using data. They're looking at solving problems differently. And this goes down to a mom and pop restaurant. This goes down to every business. You can slay the dragon. You can take the giant dinosaur company and overnight grab their business because you can take care of customers better than they are using old means.
And I really think your book, more than anything, outside of just breaking it down, gives you the confidence. I walked away from that book that saying, man, you're right. Money only changes hands when problems are solved. It's easier than you think to go out and solve problems. And we think this. We think this.
Yeah,
is lucky and the strong.
Everybody thinks that entrepreneurs sell something. No one ever walked into a store and wanted to buy a 1/4-inch drill bit. They wanted a 1/4-inch hole, and somebody said, "Hey, I'll make drill bits." And you can scale this endlessly. Today, you are one click away from 6 billion people. You only have to be right for a nanosecond. To become a billionaire, change the world. Every month we have a new self-made billionaire in their 20s and 30s. Guess what? They got the same 24 hours in a day that you and I do, Burt. What are they doing differently? And the reason I wrote the book, I'm not special. I'm like everybody else. And one day I look around and a whole bunch of my friends that were starting and doing all this stuff with one after another becomes billionaires. And we're not that bright. We looked at the opportunity, we looked at the world differently, and the pace of change is so fast that anyone can do this. And that's why I'm dedicating whatever time I have left on this planet to make the journey easier for others. Because as you know, Burt, and you're doing this as a coach, the very first thing that any coach has to do is convince the player that they can.
That's right.
If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So you have to take off all those layers of everybody telling you what you can't do. You suck at math. Really? Because in the 3rd grade, you didn't do good on a multiplication test that's in your head. You can do it now. So we build up with all these things, and our parents and teachers and well-wishers want us not to be crushed. but what they're really doing is crushing your dreams. So if you went out there to get that safe job, that steady job, hello, that company may not be around. So it isn't security that's robbing your ambition. It's that illusion of security. And when that company goes away and you're 30 or 40, what do you have? So disruption is going to happen. It's not about what happens to you. It's how you respond.
There's a phrase you use. I have to go back to find it about robbing your future. Is it the illusion of future? Is it the illusion of something that robs your future?
Yeah, it's the illusion of security that robs ambition. And what I mean by that is people try to play it safe. Oh, we got this big company job at this big corporation. Well, hello, it's the 60th anniversary of the Fortune 500, and only 57 of those companies have survived. And those are the big ones. You know, when was the last time you went and bought some Kodak film? Now, Kodak in 1975 invented the digital camera. And what they do with it, they buried it because it didn't have the same margin as film. So the film guy could make his numbers. The film guy could get promoted. The guy who was talking about the digital camera, he had no future there. These are the mistakes. Companies fight the same war over and over again. When I was at Sony, they saw their competition as all the other manufacturers at the golf course in Tokyo. Panasonic and Sharp and Epson, et cetera. What they didn't see was Apple and Google and Samsung, and the world changes. And it changes at the smallest. And I know some people, when they hear this, they go, oh, well, you're talking about tech. Hello, what's the first thing you did when you woke up this morning and the last thing you kissed to bed at night? It wasn't your spouse, it was your phone, okay? We're all dealing with tech. We're in an interconnected world, and every single listener here has written the same amount of code as Steve Jobs, who built the biggest company in the world, which is zero.
Yeah, let's go back a little bit, and you're exactly right. Like I said, I think when you read the book, you're going to have tremendous confidence. You're going to look at other industries and see how you can disrupt them. But let's go back early on, because you were involved in some early stage things that became really, really big. Talk a little bit about the first thing, you know, because some of the first things that you were involved in that you really invented. Some worked, some didn't. Some went on to become LinkedIn. They went on to become eBay. I mean, you were involved in some monster concepts.
So before I get into the monster concepts, let me explain it to people this way, because I don't want to brag.
Sure.
When you go into an empty field and you plant something, you're the biggest farmer there is, okay? Yes. So I was always afraid of competition. So I would always go after the next thing. Because if you're the best in the world, if you're the only one in the world doing it, you're the best of the world doing it. So I got onto the internet in 1978. Nobody knew what this thing was, okay? Did we come up with the best business ideas? I don't know, but many of them are billion-dollar companies today. When the PC came along, I was the first guy to put video on a PC. I thought all this would happen in the 1980s. I didn't have my timing right, but did well. I was the first guy to do digital music, which we now, you know, sitting down and licensing and working out those things. First person to put music on a video game, kiosks at airports. Yeah. Some of these times you make a fortune. Some of the times you're right, but the timing's wrong. I tell one of my favorite stories in the book is two guys, and this is way back in the 1970s, realized if you hooked up traffic lights to computers, you could control traffic and make city life better. They named their company Trafo Data. They got it. And they went to city planners, and city planners going, what's a computer? What are you talking about? So Bill Gates and Paul Allen's first company went bankrupt. Their second company, Microsoft, did a little bit better. And so what you see in these stories is everybody failed. Guess what? I have failed more than anybody listening, and that's why I'm a success. You learn through failure. You learn what not to do. You learn what you can do. And when you feel it's coming down the wrong way, there's always a chance to pivot and turn and learn from that insight.
So when you think about this, because last night I'm coming back from Houston, I'm on a flight, we're checking in at the kiosk, and I tell my business associate who's over all of my sales, I said, you see this kiosk right here? My man, Jay Samit, was one of the first people, and I was telling him the story of you coming into the airport. I think it was in Los Angeles or California, right? Yeah. And you were looking for directions, and the person wasn't there, and you thought, man, if there was something here that we could get information from in different languages. So tell the viewer that, because I think that's a fascinating story.
So before I had raised hundreds of millions of dollars for startups and taken companies public, done all this, when I was just a kid seeing the future, not understanding how to get from where I was and think logic ruled, the California was going to join the lottery. And back then, the machine that printed your lottery tickets had a little green screen and little white numbers, and that's it. And I said, wait a second, what if I make a machine that talks in different languages, has a motion detector, when you're in the supermarket, goes, psst, what would you do with $1 million? And all these great bells and whistles. And it was amazing. And I was up for the contract for the state of California with one other company that has this little green thing that somebody types in numbers, slam dunk. Now, the part that's in the footnotes of the book, so nobody knows this part, but it's true, is my competition was filmed in a hotel room by the FBI giving a suitcase of $50,000 cash to a state senator who then went to prison. And lo and behold, they won the contract with their crappy thing. And the state never voided that contract. So now I had financed my entire company in these kiosks on my credit card. I was broke. I had 2 young kids. I thought I was right. I thought I was destined to success. And I'm about as downtrodden as you get. I'm flying home. Not only am I broke, that my cards are maxed out, I have no cash on me. I don't know how to get a bus from LAX to my house because I can't afford any other way home. And back then, they used to have these nice old ladies that would sit and man these booths for a couple hours a day. So it's late at night. They're not there. And I'm going, wait a second. 50 million people come to this airport every year, and your point of failure is a little old lady volunteer? What if we take my machines? What if you could book things? What if you could book tickets? And so from failure, you get it. And some of the biggest companies that you use every day, okay? Twitter was a music company, okay? YouTube was a dating company. They all pivoted when what they thought they were doing didn't work.
Yes, yes. And that's the big lesson that I want the viewer and the listener to take away is until you start going down a track and take action and commit, that's when you start pivoting, going, this is not the idea, but the idea is over here, right? And I want to go back
exactly.
and remind people what he said. When you're in an empty field, you're always the biggest farmer, guys. And right. So, that's really good. Let's talk. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I teach a class how to build a high-tech startup at the largest engineering school in the country, one of the ways I give back. And I've taught 2 students that did $150 million top line their first year. I mean, this is very doable. There's always new things to solve.
Nice.
But what it all starts with is every single idea, every pitch, every hackathon I've judged, every idea that I've ever heard, get ready for this, sucks. You're expecting me to say something positive. No, they always suck because it's an obvious assumption, okay? It's not till you start working on it that you find out where the problem is, what hasn't happened, and you go deeper into the woods than anybody else. That's where you find the city of gold. That's where you find, wait a second. Nobody stumbled upon this because nobody tried this hard. Nobody worked this hard. And if you give up before you get to that point, you never know how close you are to success if you give up. So one of the things I always tell people is when it seems like, oh, it's impossible, I've tried everything, look over your shoulder to see how far you've already come. Because it's a lot farther than where you still have to go.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. You talk about discussing how you look at other industries to disrupt them. And this really opened reading the book really got me looking at other industries and where the disruption points, because I do believe, and I think Adam Grant wrote a great book on this called The Outsiders. I do believe that it takes an outsider many times to see something, because you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame, right? Your own assumption, your own bias, your own prejudgment. And so talk
absolutely
at other industries and being a disruptor for other industries.
Oh, where do I start? I've worked with fast food. I've worked with automotive, hotels, entertainment companies, music companies. It's really about looking at solutions that may be used in a different field and applying them. So one of the myths that I bust in the book is everybody has this view of Gutenberg and the printing press as somebody sitting there, fully formed. I got it. I'm going to make a printing press, movable type. I'm such a genius. Nothing could be farther than the truth. What happened is 1,500 years before Gutenberg, somebody in Greece figured out rather than squish olives by hand to make olive oil, you make an olive press. Then it took 1,500 years for somebody to say, you know what? If we made an olive press bigger, we could put wine grapes in there and make wine. Literally, in the 16th century, Suddenly, everybody and their mother can make wine because you don't need a whole bunch of people to press the grapes before they go bad. So many people started making wine that they all went belly up. That's when Gutenberg saw that he could buy a used wine press really cheap to put his little letters in, and that became the insight. If you look at it, all the big insights always happen at crossroads. If you look at the journey of the Silk Road, of all the cities, Damascus, Cairo, Jerusalem, that were built along the way, it was different cultures coming together where somebody saw something one way and somebody saw something another. That's what universities do really well. They take people from all over. USC has more foreign students than local students. We have a bias. And as you get older, you calcify. That's both for businesses and for people. So the way you did it works. You're going to keep on doing that when you're in the corner office, and people stop listening. You know, God gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth. Try to use them in that order. And what you'll see is there's so many problems that you aren't addressing because you don't recognize that they're problems. Oh, sorry about that. But let me give you a tip that I teach people of how to have more deal flow than any venture capitalist. I can guarantee everybody listening here will have a $1 billion idea in the next 30 days, okay? Here's what you do, and you know this from the book. Write down 3 problems in your life today, whatever they are, because every problem is an opportunity in disguise. I was in traffic this morning, all right? You write down 3. But as you get 2 or 3 days into it, it's really hard to find new problems because things that you didn't think of as a problem are a problem. So one of my readers had this problem. The phone rang just like we just had, and he goes, oh, did I take my medicine or did I not take my medicine? I know I'm holding the bottle. Well, drug efficacy and overdoses and all this is a big problem. So he took a Happy Meal watch. He put it on the lid of the bottle, and every time you close the bottle, it counts down to 0. So he could look at it and go, oh, yeah, I opened it 3 minutes ago. I took my pill. Or, oh, it's been 6 hours. I have it. He's now a multimillionaire selling these. There's a Bluetooth version so your grandkids can tell grandpa that they forgot to take their medicine. And there's a bill gone through Congress to mandate this because with nationalized medicine now, this will save billions of dollars a year. The traffic idea was 2 kids in traffic in Tel Aviv. One looked at the other and said, you know, that other car, he's got a cell phone, I got a cell phone. The company knows, you know, the phone company knows where my phone is and his. Tell him to go left, me to go right. There's no traffic. That was Waze. They became billionaires 9 months later. Not a penny in revenue. I can't tell you how many people I've met that have made hundreds of millions of dollars but never made a profit. Let that sink in.
Yeah. And basically what this should be doing for the viewer out there is it should be opening up your dreamer. And it should be opening up you to possibility. And, you know, I'm a former championship athletic coach that came over to the business world. So I naturally see things differently because of my coaching acumen. You know, and for a number of years, I called myself a coachepreneur because I was a cross between a championship coach, but I had an entrepreneurial mind. And when I was coaching, I was bringing business concepts to the athletic world. Now I'm bringing athletic concepts to the business world. And there was this crossover that neither side saw, really. Neither side could get their mind around. So I was a true outsider. So I was resonating really with your work because, you know, I coach some of the top real estate people in the world, but I don't sell real estate. I coach some of the top mortgage people, but I don't sell mortgages. And a lot of people are looking for an outside perspective.
Absolutely.
Everybody's just repeating the same thing. The people that drink the Kool-Aid are just saying do the same thing. So I really resonate. Now, a lot of your ideas that you've been a part of have gone from small to big, okay?
Right.
And one question I really have for you is when you sit down to design something, because I do believe many times a business is designed before there is a business. You know, a poorly designed business has to be recalibrated later. Do you sit down from the very beginning, because I get a lot of questions from entrepreneurs on this, and design a business to scale, or do you just sit down and design it, and as you meet capacity and meet need, then worry about scale?
Great question. And the foremost expert on this is who wrote the intro to the book, Reid Hoffman, creator of PayPal and LinkedIn and board of Zynga and first investor in Facebook, and the smartest human being I've ever met. He's the only person that I know that literally can see years in the future within a 10% accuracy. We had a party for him like 10 years into LinkedIn, and we looked at the original business plan, how many people would sign up, how it would scale, revenues, and every number on that chart, he was in the zone. On me, no way. You have an idea that you now know is valid. You talk to potential customers and you know that the market is huge, the total addressable market. You know, the old, well, I'm making socks and, you know, there's 6 billion pairs of feet, right? So it's big enough. I never went into any of these and said, this is going to be $1 billion company. I don't have that kind of ego. I will tell you that the original team at eBay, one of the guys said, when the company's $100 million market cap, I'm out of here and running for office in California. And he did. He went and ran for office in California. So what we didn't understand in my youth that I now understand and try to teach people today is the whole world is interconnected. So if you're solving a problem that a lot of people have, you can reach that whole global market very, very quickly. Now, there's a different mindset. In the beginning of a business, it's how do you take a nickel and stretch it to a dime? Once you prove it in one market, okay, it works in Chicago or it works in Minneapolis or works somewhere, and you then decide that you want to go national, then you have to switch your mindset to how much gasoline can I pour on this fire? How much capital can I raise? So when people look at like an Uber or back in the day, Amazon, how could they raise, hundreds of millions of dollars with no profits, billions of dollars? Because they proved it in a market. These aren't crazy people giving people billions of dollars. They're saying, wow, let's get this person, this company to get as many markets globally as quickly as possible. Because guess what? When you look at the world today, of all the new products, of all the new solutions, it's not a Coke versus Pepsi world. It's a winner take all. So the first one to scale wins.
That's right. So you touched on something about raising money, okay? And you've raised a lot of money for concepts and part of raising a lot of money. Talk to the person out there that's an entrepreneur. Let's go back to where they're just getting started. Maybe they have proof of concept. Maybe they got a couple $1 million business. So they've got a little bit of demonstrated capacity that it's working. And now they're interested in going and raising money. Go back and speak to that person. I mean, because a lot of people don't raise money because they don't know how, right? I'm outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville is becoming one of the hottest cities in the world, especially for entrepreneurs under 40. And but a lot of entrepreneurs don't even know how to get started. So go back and give them some coaching. Give them some coaching.
So here's a couple ways that people don't think about it. First of all, I have a whole chapter called OPM, Other People's Money. I'm about to explain to you that there's people that will give you money that don't want any equity and don't want the money back and don't want any interest and don't want any payment at all. And I tell, I've done this for tens of millions of dollars. And what it is you now have a solution for some demographic. You've solved something for senior citizens. There's somebody else out there that wants to reach senior citizens and sell wheelchairs, prescriptions, old age home, whatever, but they don't have a new sexy idea to get any attention or any press. So they will work with and grow your giant idea. They don't care how rich you become because it helps them. A great example of this was I had a digital music store. Think of iTunes. Mm-hmm. How do you get people to know about it? How do you get people to like it or whatever? At the same time, McDonald's sales were down because of a movie called Super Size Me. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to be hip and cool again. So I went to McDonald's and said, hey, how about every time a person buys a Big Mac, you give them a free track? And they go, wow, that's cool. And they have the best marketing people in the world and the best agencies. And they made the most gorgeous TV commercial. I have it up on YouTube. But they drove 20 million customers to my store the first week. My marketing budget, $0.00. They spent tens of millions of dollars to drive people to my business. And you can do this again and again. And in that particular case of that music store, I had a great head of business development under me. I said, go rinse and repeat. Find every product anywhere. We did this with pens. We did this with beer. We did this with tampons. I kid you not. We did this with a retail chain where we put fake Walkman on all the mannequins in all their 1,000 stores. And if you bought $25, you got a free album. We ended up getting hundreds of millions of dollars of advertising for zero. You can also go to people that benefit, customers that will want to do it. Said, wow, I would buy it. My favorite example, which isn't in the book, is the late, great George Harrison was reading a script for a movie called Time Bandits. And he goes, oh, I love this. I want to see this movie. He goes, well, just can't raise any money. He said, here's $10 million for the first ticket. Okay. So customer that wants to buy something will give you the money. Ray Kroc raised money from meat packers because if he was right, they'd sell more meat. So There's always a way. And today we also have crowdfunding. There's no gatekeeper. It's the most Zen-like moment in history. Crowdfunding is controlled by no one and everyone at the same time. You make a video, you explain it, you go out and you market those keywords of who would like it, and we all come across something and we go, I didn't know this product existed, but now I can't live without it.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you can raise money, and what I'm seeing here, last week I had Chris Voss, the who wrote Never Split the Difference, on the show, and he said something that stuck with me. He said, "Why spend money on something that you could buy with emotional satisfaction? Why spend money when you could buy?" So you're saying when you build something that's valuable, right, and you have access, people will pay to have access to that group, like you did with the McDonald's.
Absolutely.
Right? You disrupted that because they needed. They were in a low point. You came in and offered that product to them. Also, you did the same thing with the airlines, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Every person got a download. And so, raising the money is really when you start looking across in other channels, you can see where you can disrupt the value chain. Now, speak to that concept of value chain. But you talk about this in the book.
So for those that took classical MBA stuff, the value chain is all the parts of a business. You got research and development, then you make the product, then you got sales and marketing, distribution, all that. Well, each of us as a human being has that same value chain. And the first thing you have to do is disrupt that. I call self-disruption like having plastic surgery, but you're holding the scalpel. You really have to start challenging your limitations and assumptions. As corny as it sounds, you are as limitless as the universe. The only person that can stop you is you. What is stopping you? Why do you believe that you can't? I'm not smart enough. I don't have the right connections. Oh, it's so easy, Jay. You know everybody. Worked with the Pope and president. Really? I started as, a guy that just, made a business card and made up a company for $1 and, hoped I could hustle. It's no different, and as I embarrassingly admit, when I got to a stage where I had an idea that the world really thought it was great, and I get a phone call one day from a guy doing the worst impersonation of an Arkansas accent I ever heard, and I made the President of the United States, President Bill Clinton, prove to me that he was Bill Clinton, why my secretary was looking at me like, what planet am I from? So you can, and LinkedIn, one of the things that Reed was so genius about, LinkedIn gives you the ability not just to link to customers, but to link to mentors. People that have achieved in the field that you're going to, people that have made more mistakes that they would gladly share with the next generation. It gives them that validity that they've learned and that they can help. Most people really are good and want to help. And now you can reach to people. I talked about a story of a teen, a high school dropout that started tweeting with Richard Branson, got $1 million out of Richard, sold the company 2 years later, everybody made money. So these aren't the one miracle, and the whole point of the book, some people say you have too many examples. No, the point of the examples is to show these aren't one-offs. These are the rule, not the exception. If you do what everybody else is doing, you will get what everybody else has, which is not success. No one led a nation or a company by following the path of another. So get away from that, oh, well, people will make fun of me. People will, I'll be embarrassed of the failure. You know what the biggest failure is? Absolutely, the biggest failure is at the end of your life, and the single biggest risk you took was none. Then you spent your entire life going to a job you didn't care about, achieving nothing, and you wasted this precious time on this planet. Yeah,
and the examples you give in the book are inspiring to people. It does get you off the fence. It does tell you that you can do this. Now, let's talk about, you placed yourself in proximity to a lot of very powerful people. And I think one of the things I kept thinking as I was listening and watching your interviews is, man, how has this guy placed himself in proximity to all of these people? Was that intentional, or was it because your skill set was so strong? Was it because, you've done things for everything from President Clinton to the Reid Hoffmans to all of those people. And a person out there in the world is like, man, it's a big world. There's 7 billion people on the planet. How do I overcome obscurity and get access to the action of where this is happening? What advice?
As we said earlier, be the best at what you do or the only one doing it. Because if you're the only one doing it, you're by definition the best, which means to stand out, you really have to be unique, okay? There's a lot of people that have been on your shows that are serial entrepreneurs. I'm the only serial disruptor, okay? I coined myself to be different. And what happens is, in my particular case, and I work with many, many of the biggest brands and companies around the world that you know, not one of those CEOs and famous billionaires ever called me because they were having a great year. They were calling me because they had a problem, and I had positioned myself as a solution.
Nice.
So that's all you really have to do. No one knows everything. Get some expertise, spend the time to really know that one thing, and make sure that you're picking something that's important. So back to those 90 ideas. At the end of the month, when you have your 90 problems, you sort them on 2 axes. One is, what are you passionate about? Because if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to stand through all the rigors and setbacks and challenges. The other is, what's the size of the market? You know, if you have something that's the perfect solution for people with 6 toes on their feet, it's really nice of you to have that, but it's not a big market, okay? If you have something that everybody's going to use every day, so like we had a company that I was president of that figured out how to do group video chat on mobile phones. First ones in the world to do it. Well, we thought originally this was going to be great for business and conferences and all that. We looked at the data, and it was 14-year-old inner city girls. When they got home, they wanted to talk to all their friends. And you know what? When you have 14-year-old girls, that brings you 15-year-old boys, and so on and so on. It soon became the #1 app with youth worldwide. We had 100 million users, okay? Then you figure out what advertisers want to reach them.
Nice, nice. Well, just so you know, I am a good student, and I am coachable. So these are the problems I've been writing down.
Awesome.
So I am not a talker. I am a doer. And
to help your audience along those lines, if you go to jsamit.com, JAYSAMIT.com, I have a free 40-page workbook to help you with exercises that go along with the book. Again, I'm not doing a book to make a dime. It's with a major publisher. Everybody knows how publishing works.
Yes.
I'm out here saying to people, you're paying off student loans for the rest of your life, and yet you can save and accelerate 10 years of your career for the price of a Frappuccino, okay? Go out. If you don't like reading, get the audiobook. If you've never gotten an audiobook, the first one's free on Audible. You know, there's nothing stopping you. And what blows my mind is 42% of U.S. college graduates never read another book.
Well,
if you're not learning, you're not earning.
Absolutely. Think about this too. I wrote down, you've been recruited to some major firms in your lifetime. I mean, you've been sought out as an expert. And today there's obviously lots of competition, but people are looking for something. So speak to a person out there. Obviously, you developed a very special skill set that people want. Now you're heading up a major division for Deloitte, which is obviously one of the most prestigious and largest, firms in the world. I've been there 7 times to DU in Dallas to speak on my book, Person of Interest. And, speak to a person out there that's trying to make their way up the value chain. What type of skills do you feel like they need?
So in the old days, you used to have to hire a PR agency. You used to have marketing dollars. You used to have some way to break out, okay? You now have social media. You now have the ability to write columns. I write a column for Fortune, okay? I used to write for the Wall Street Journal. You know what I get paid to write for? 0. You know why I do it? Because when I write on a topic, and this just happened this week, this is an ancient thing. I talked about how augmented reality is fundamentally going to shift bricks and mortar retail. A CEO of a major, major brand that everybody knows that has been around for half a century called and said, how fast can I get in there? And how fast can we start working? So start writing things, start posting blogs, start tweeting, start using Instagram. Depending on the age and demographic of who your audience is, find the right channel, okay? And start giving value with that. It's not just, buy me, buy me, buy me. It's what is the value that the reader, that the person across the world would gain? How can you become the indisputable source for that? There's a guy named Cashmore who started in his basement, Mashable. He just took interesting things and put them up there. Next thing you know, has more traffic than the Wall Street Journal. So it can be done, and you don't have to reach millions of people. You just have to reach your audience.
Right.
And your audience could be about self-driving cars. Your audience could be about 3D printers, Who's the foremost expert in the world on VR or on AI? Whoever says they are, and then backs it up with the hard work.
All right, so let's end with this question because I know now you're big into augmented reality.
Yeah.
And I would like for you to explain to people where the future of this is going. What does it mean? Where is the future of augmented reality, and how's it going to change? How's it going to change bricks and mortar?
Sure. So I'll start off with first a bold claim. We're now at the 10th anniversary of the smartphone and the iPhone, and you don't have to explain to anybody a smartphone. You can't live without it. And yet I remember one of the big companies before they came out didn't believe in it, okay? I'm telling you, within the next 3 years, starting this year, you won't be taking that phone out of your pocket again. You will have glasses that you'll be holding up that will do so many things because it will bring information to where you are and place it in the environment. So augmented reality isn't taking you to some mask and you're in some grandma's basement playing a video game. This is, you go to Cambodia and now I can read every sign. It's suddenly in English. Or I see a beautiful woman at the hotel bar. I have 2 pairs of glasses. Give her one. I have one. And now we can talk to each other instantly. Or I just heard Coach Burt said I should be on the paleo diet. I don't remember what's on that diet, what's not. But I go down the aisle of my supermarket with 40,000 items, and I only see the items that are on the diet. Everything else disappears, or the diabetes diet, or whatever it might be. You can now have pop-up stores at a football game. You can sit in the stadium and see on your glasses the replay and how your fantasy league's doing. There are so many great applications. You can see what your room's going to look like painted in that shade of mauve, okay, or 6 other shades without touching a paint, and instantly it'll measure how much paint you need. It goes on and on. So it's about bringing context to our knowledge. And if you go back, that's the only thing that separates us from animals. We all have language. Animals have sense of humor. It's wrong. The one thing the man figured out how to do is to capture knowledge outside of themselves so that you can build on the knowledge of the others. That first cave guy that put the paintings of how to attack, the woolly mammoth, that clan did better, and so on and so on. So augmented reality, look into it. There's so many opportunities. The biggest companies are spending billions of dollars. We at Deloitte are working with some of the biggest brands doing amazing things in this space that you'll see come out. But there'll be so many niches, $100 million niches that no one's grabbed yet. So take your flag and be the only one in the world doing it.
Well, I'm sitting into thinking, we're coaching people all over the world. We're currently whether it be simulcasting live events, simulcasting online academies. Where do you see augmented reality affecting that experience?
So corporate training is a huge area with this, onboarding, interviewing, soft skills. We're working with social workers to understand when people are lying and physical cues, all kinds of knowledge. But training in the future will no longer be about retaining every piece of information between your ears. If my job is to climb up that electrical pole and work on that transformer, and I get up there and, it's a 1976 Model B. I've never seen that one. Well, my glasses have. It recognizes it and suddenly says, is the green light on? No. Is this one? And it walks you through. And when it hits that one use case that you don't have, suddenly it connects you with Burt, your boss, who does know it. He sees what you're seeing, and he can stay in his office and help 50 people around the country repair things at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it's mind-blowing how fast this will happen. Last year, Americans bought 85 million pairs of prescription glasses for more than $100. So if the magic glasses I'm talking about are that same price point,
nice.
How are we not going to?
Yeah. How could you not? Not bad for a dyslexic. You find out in the book, right?
Yep.
Fascinating reading about how dyslexics solve problems, work through issues. You give a long list of very successful people that were dyslexic. I think the book is amazing, Jay. I do think it's one of the best books out there. You have carved out yourself as the go-to guy in the disruption space. And, man, I just want to thank you for inspiring a lot of entrepreneurs out there in the world to go and break those chains and really have the confidence to pursue something. You've done a
Thank you so much, Burt.
And thank you for having me. Keep up the good work at Deloitte, man. I appreciate you.
Okay, take care.
All right, guys, that's Jay Samit. What a fascinating interview. Just want to say, if you have not picked up the book, Disrupt You, and listen, where I got so much value is watching video after video on Jay's interviews. He's been on some of the biggest podcasts in the world, and he's really out there ahead of the game in so many areas. He makes you expand your thinking. He gives you the confidence that you need to disrupt your own personal value chain so that you can go out there and do the things you're supposed to do. Every single week on Super Coach, I spend time with talent. I want to multiply your life, multiply your money, and I could not keep but thinking, Jack, about acceleration. Jay is in the acceleration business, man. He is really out there accelerating people's dreams. This show every week's brought to you by justcallaloha.com, the big kahuna of comfort. That's my man Shane Ray, who's in Monster Producer. Thank you, Shane, for sponsoring big-time shows like this. And if you want to go back and watch the replay, you can go to iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Republic, and on my YouTube channel to get this interview. So Jay Samit, Disrupt You, personal transformation, master personal transformation, seize opportunity, and thrive in an era of endless innovation. You guys have a great day. This is Coach Michael Burt. I believe everybody needs a good coach in life.